Priyanka Chopra Jonas, successful TV and film actor, a producer, singer, and now an author. Named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world and recognized as one of Forbes' most powerful women, Priyanka is certainly an icon for all who dare to dream and for those who dare not, for all who tried and failed, and particularly those who never tried for fear of failure. She has done it all. She dreamt, she attempted, she feared, she overcame. She was rejected and then unexpectedly accepted. And how? A girl like us, and look at her now as she strides the globe. Was it destiny or carefully laid out plans? Her sheer grit, refusal to accept failure, or is there a formula to her amazing success story? You will find all these answers and more in her memoir, Unfinished, and some with us here today as Priyanka joins us for the Times Literature Festival 2021. Welcome, PC. It's wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Vinita.
Let's start by talking about the title of your book. I know you've probably tried to explain it to a lot of friends and people, but for us here, why Unfinished?
Well, a couple of things. One, because I think all of us are eventually unfinished. We're all works in progress. It's a futile attempt if you try and finish yourself or complete yourself. Every day we change, every day we evolve. So that's one reason. Second, I feel like there's a lot I want to do in my life. There's a lot I want to hopefully have as I go forward. And the third was I felt like I've left a lot of things unfinished in my life and moved on when I felt like, they've not placed in where I was going. And it's okay to do that. So in multiple reasons why Unfinished made sense for me at this point in my life.
It is. And I totally love the title because to me, there is far more beauty in something that is yet to be completed rather than in the complete picture, because then after that, what? So it's better to always be a little unfinished so that there's more scope for improvement and for better times ahead. So what did the writing of this book do for you, Priyanka? Because, whenever you're writing a memoir and you think back and you dig deep, I'm sure a lot of memories and a lot of issues that you had pushed to the back of your mind came forth. So at the end of this exercise, how did writing this book really help you?
The process of writing the book for me was very crucial that the story is where I am in this moment. In this moment, when I look back into my life, what feels true to me, right? So absolutely, when I started going down that road, it was weird and different because I hadn't had the time all these years to even like look back and introspect. I didn't even want to actually. I may not have had the inclination either, honestly. But because I was home during COVID for quarantine, almost 6 months, it helped me dig deep. I had to first decide that I was going to do that. I've been a very private person all my life. So I had to decide when I was writing the memoir. There could have been two kinds of memoirs, right? There could have been one where I just skimmed the surface like I have for the last 20 years of being in entertainment. I'm not someone who shares my life, but I could have skimmed the surface. I chose to dig deep because I felt like there's been so much that's been written about me. Books have been written about me, and people feel a sense of familiarity with me. And I just wanted to, for people who know me, sort of give them an insight into what my truth for me is. And for people who are getting to know me, hopefully through me, they'll get to know where I came from, my culture, my work ethic, which has really defined who I am.
I'm sure it helped give you a perspective about yourself in your life as well. As you say very beautifully, and I read the whole book. I read it in one sitting through the night, and I finished it in one
Oh,
reading.
thank you so much.
Totally loved it. I did. And I enjoyed reading it. I find it a very honest book. And I find that it's a no holds barred, honest book where, like you say, that you followed the 90-10 principle, when 90% of your life you've revealed, but 10% you've kept back to yourself, and rightly so. But in writing this book, when you were thinking through, I'm sure it gave you a perspective about yourself. Did you discover a side to yourself or a thought about yourself that you had not been aware of earlier prior to the writing of this book?
Yes, I would say without, without trying to sound, I think, pompous maybe, but when I got out of the other side and I read the manuscript for the first time, I was very overcome by emotion of just how many mountains and valleys I kind of have been through and not sort of dealt with, not thought of.
Yes.
And I was exhausted and exhilarated at the same time when I finished reading the book. I patted my younger self on the back for, having a sense of principles and values and living my life on my terms. I, gave my younger self a hug and said it's okay for all those times when, you were sad and cried through something which was really hard. And, I gave myself a reason to breathe. I was like, okay, I've done this well for the last 20 years. And now it's time to take, find a sense of solace in where I am, a sense of contentment, a sense of peace, and confidence in my craft. I'm very confident in what I bring to the table now, unlike what I was, of course, when I was starting out. So it was a mixture of all of these emotions, but the best way to describe it is feeling sort of exhausted.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully put, and no wonder you've written such a good book, because a person like you who expresses herself so well is bound to write well, and especially when you write like in the way you speak, which is, believe me, very difficult to do. Most of us do not write the way we speak. We try to inculcate a different kind of writing style, and it doesn't work. It falls flat on its face. So in your book, it was almost like conversing with you, like sitting with you and hearing you talk about it all.
I have to say that was a very crucial part of writing the book for me. I really wanted to tell the stories like I would tell my stories to a friend, over coffee or something. And I think I did a lot of recording my thoughts instead of just writing them
Mhm.
because I think faster than I type.
Mm.
So I started writing in a journal, and I was, thinking faster than I was writing with a pen as well. So I started recording myself a lot and transcribing that. And I think that really helped me in
Yeah.
getting my voice across. But it was very difficult to record it for the audiobook because
Mm.
I speak in such long sentences. So when I was recording the audiobook, I was like, oh my gosh, this full paragraph is one sentence.
Yeah. Breathe, breathe, Priyanka, breathe. Yeah.
For the next book, I learned that lesson.
You're a comfortable mashup, you say, of the East and the West, the old and the new. And you go ahead and prove that in your book. You said the cultural mashup invigorates me, because you feel that, we all need to learn from each other, like you said. And you've seen different parts of life, different parts of the world, and belonged to them, as not many people have the privilege of doing. And you worked in areas where you felt you did not belong and you felt a little uncomfortable, but you got over that comfort and worked still in those places. But one thing I noticed, Priyanka, a lot of people in such circumstances would get up, fight back. And I noticed in your book, in your entire story, you never did that. You did not stand up and fight. Instead, you very intelligently stepped back a little bit, thought about it, and tried to find a different way for yourself, a different path, and tried to do so. So when you came to Bollywood and you found that, okay, there are a lot of fences that are put up, there are a lot of doors that are shut. So you tried and you found a different kind of oeuvre for yourself, and you decided to find the kind of roles which not many others would fight for, and where you would fit in comfortably. And you got those. Even when you faced racism at your school, it was more like, you went away from there. Was that because you think in life it is better to step away from negativity and evil, or fences, and then try and find another path? Would you do the same today?
Well, this is a little convoluted answer, so go with me. But I feel like, so if you're trekking and you see like a really big boulder right in front of you that has stayed there for thousands and thousands of years, right? That's the idea. Instead of picking at it as one alone person, I'll try to go around it. And when I've gone around it and I've reached the other side, so many other people will be able to go around it and find their way instead of getting stuck and fighting this big boulder. So, exactly like that, there are fences and there are ceilings that have been created for women, for people, in every field. And sometimes the best way to prove that you can do it is by doing it instead of fighting a fight that has existed for such a long time and wasting the wonderful opportunity that you might have by trying another route. I don't always have one plan. I always have multiple plans. I don't get defined by one failure. I'll dust myself off and I'll try something else, because eventually it is the steps that you take going forward. Instead of getting stuck, it's important to keep moving and taking one step forward, and slowly you'll turn around and see that you've gone a really long distance.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. Instead of spending time fighting, and trying to move that boulder, which will not be moved by one person, it's always better to find a new path. And I
But
totally admire.
it moves when you do it by example.
Yes.
Suddenly that boulder will not have any importance because I've gone around, and then somebody else will go around, and then there'll be a road that will take you around the boulder.
And probably the boulder moves around to take a look at you. Where did you go?
Yeah.
What happened to you? So, okay, but Alex Parrish, the character you played in Quantico, is totally different. Is somebody who is, bold and brazen and just goes forth. And did you really relate much with her?
Um, in ways, yes. I'm a bold person. I'm not someone who works on the back foot. I'm more on the front foot.
Mhm.
Um, but that's a character I'm very proud of, because
We all are.
I hadn't seen in American TV or film too many leading ladies who are Indian in mainstream movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was very proud of being able to play just a mainstream character without without being burdened by my heritage, which should be an asset. It shouldn't be a burden. And I was very proud of her, and I love the fact that she was her own cat. She was her own person, and she wasn't scared of anyone. She wasn't even scared of being alone. In fact, she made her own decisions. Alex was a very liberating character to play. She was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And how about all the negative characters that you played in Bollywood, which were the movies that really did well for you, and we all enjoyed watching them.
I guess people like me as a bad girl.
Why is that? Why is that? You don't see yourself as a bad girl, do you?
Do I see myself as a bad girl?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's nice.
Everyone is good and bad sometimes.
And it's interesting to be sometimes a bad girl within certain controls, I guess. So, like you yourself said that your life took various crazy turns all through, and a lot of the times you planned for something, and something else happened in your life. You wanted, to be an engineer, but you became a star. You became a Miss India. You became a Miss World, and from Bollywood you reached Hollywood. You became a music star and a singing sensation. So do you believe in destiny? Do you believe that fate has it all written for us, and we just make efforts without any rhyme or reason, and whereas destiny or someone up there knows what's going to happen ahead in life? Should we even try?
I believe in destiny and hard work. I feel like there are doors that are decided for you, or opportunities that are sprinkled around you. And it really is, a person's character that will allow them to recognize the opportunity and exploit the opportunity, and to work hard within the opportunity, and to understand when it works for you and when it doesn't. I think that it has to do with certain, a sort of a mindset, but I do believe that milestones sort of are predetermined, of I think what your personality is like and what your strengths are like. And I think opportunities are sprinkled around us. It is up to us to, move out of the fog that we all live in as human beings. Sometimes we're emotional, we're sad, we're insecure, we're angry, and all of that creates a fog. If you can focus and on your larger ambition and larger goal and see through all the fog, then I think it's an easier route for destiny to shape your life in the best way possible.
Yes, yes, very, very, very nicely put. What are the qualities that held you steady through all the crazy turns that your life took? What qualities,
My
inherent
family.
qualities? Your family, yes. You talk a lot about your
My
family
family.
values they taught you. Yes, in the book. Yeah.
I feel like the one thing that my family definitely taught me was nothing can break you. You know, you might feel like you're very close to broken, but you're self sufficient enough that nothing can break you. Failures of any kind, rejection of any kind. And when you have a family that gives you such a sense of support that no matter what happens, I can come back to my parents and say I messed up and they'll still be in my corner, that kind of confidence gives a child a really large sense of self.
Yes.
And I think having my family have my back no matter what I decided and, support me no matter what I decided was the greatest gift of them all for me.
Yes.
And I think that held me through a lot of um, ups and downs that I keep. It kept me steady. It kept me from drowning. I give a lot of credit to my family support.
Confidence you've talked about in your book, and you said confidence is not something that is inherent most of the time. You build it up. So, how difficult is it to build up confidence?
But to me, it's like a muscle. It's like जब आप गाना गाते हैं रियाज करना पड़ता है. So
Hmm.
the same way,
Yes.
and for anything, you have to practice it. So confidence is something that has to be practiced. No one is born with it. Your circumstances define it, your environment defines it, your personality defines it. So I think that if you think about it this way, that you don't always need confidence. Okay. I'm having a conversation with you today. We're just the two of us and just talking, right? I don't need to come in with a sense of like, I'm so confident. But there are times where you do need that. When you're walking into a room and you're insecure and you need to find that confidence, that's when you should have it. So I think it's important to remember that it's okay to be human and it's okay to be scared and it's okay to be vulnerable, but to have access to that confidence when you need it the most and use it when you need it the most. And that's what people have to practice. It's not something that you're born with. I wasn't always confident. I learned how to do it. And the easiest way of doing that is actually by listening
Yeah.
and being aware of the room, not talking too much and listening to why people do what they do.
Yeah. That reminds me of what you said. You learned by watching other actors, and you say in your book that there were two lessons that you learned while just watching other actors. It would be very nice if you could repeat them for us here. You said that listening, they listen, and the second thing you said is that they are able to play multiple emotions together. Would
Well,
you
the
talk?
first one is acting is predominantly reacting. And actors who are waiting for to say their own lines instead of listening to what your co-actor is saying will always seem self-absorbed. The greatest of actors actually have, even if you know what your co-actor's line is, even if you know Kevi, what their emotion is, you have to really listen to what they're doing because you have to react to the way they say the line, to what they're feeling in that moment. And that was a really large lesson for me very early on, that acting is reacting. And the second was that there's never an isolated emotion, right? Like as a human being, you'll feel multiple things. I'm talking to you right now. I have an interview after this. I just came back from set. I want to try and find something to eat. I have to get briefed about something. I'm thinking multiple things, right? So when I'm acting this scene, I have to think about all the things that I'm feeling as a character. The only children have isolated emotions. Like when I'm angry, they don't care who they're in front of. They'll have a tantrum, or if they're upset, they'll scream at the mall. Also, even if you're outside, they'll cry. Those are isolated emotions. But as we grow into adults, we have multiple emotions at the same time, and it's crucial within a scene to play it honestly. That you can't just say scene mein aap gussa hai, so zor se gussa kijiye. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed reading this bit, and it was something new that I learned as well. And even in conversations, most people are just waiting to say what they have to say, or in interviews.
Instead of
They
listening,
don't-
absolutely.
and that's no kind of conversation.
What's
Yes.
the next question I have to ask? And honestly, for someone who gets interviewed a lot, To me, I disconnect so easily when the person who's asking me a question is, reading a paper or trying to think of their next
Yeah.
question while I'm answering. So, I get really distracted because it doesn't feel like a conversation.
Yeah. So coming back to your family, your parents, another incident as it's, I mean, your book is full of beautiful anecdotes, very interesting anecdotes, which people must read and understand. But there's one portion that I feel if you tell us a bit about it, it'll really help a lot of people because I thought it was a beautiful thought. Your dad told you, be like water. So and I really think it's a beautiful thought. It helped me a lot to just read about it. So please tell us a little bit about how can you be like water.
It is such a beautiful thought, right? I was about 5 years old, and my dad and my mom both were in the military, so we used to move every 2 years. And when I had to leave my best friend or my school, I was really upset and I started crying and I said, I have to move again and I don't want to go. So my dad told me something which was such a sense of power. He said, the new place that you'll go to, you'll have no baggage of what you have right now, that this teacher doesn't like me or this friend is not my friend or whatever. When you go to a new place, you have a clean slate. So you
Hmm.
can be whoever you want. And he said, you should be like water. And I said, what does that mean? He said, a water can be as powerful as a waterfall, okay? Where it can cascade down onto stones and make holes in stones. That's how strong water can be. But at the same time, it can be as still as a teacup. It can be anything and anything it wants to be within any vessel that it's put into. So you should be like water, adapt anywhere and thrive in any kind of situation that you've been put into. And it was so empowering at such a young age to know that I'm not bound by the situation that I'm in. That if I go into a new city, I need to be curious instead of afraid of what I know,
Hmm.
instead of being scared of what I don't know, lean in and ask the question and educate yourself. So it was a very powerful thing to learn at such a young age.
Gave you the confidence to reinvent yourself because whatever's happened has happened, and you can
Mm.
always leave it behind you and become someone else, or not someone else, really do something else. And perhaps that is the main reason you have reinvented yourself so many times, so many times.
But I really think, ma'am, that reinvention I mean, evolution is the name of the game, right? We can't be the same people we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You have to keep changing and you have to keep realizing that, all right, who am I in this time of my life? We can't be holding on to the truths of the past because that's not true anymore. And if you don't evolve, you're going to be left behind.
The difference between there are two ways of doing that, of moving on, of evolving. There are some people who will just wait for things to go bad, and they'll almost be pushed out of a situation into the next stage, and it happens very often. And then you don't do that. You don't wait to be pushed out of a situation. I've seen that you just jump into a new situation, and into a new invention and into something else and all. And so
But I
there's that
think it
one.
seems like that to
Yeah.
people. I
Mhm.
think mostly it seems like that. That,
Really.
am the I'm the person who's choosing everything in my life, but it's not true. It's just like anybody else. There are times where, I have waited till the last minute and
Mhm.
then finally, understood that it's futile to wait.
Yeah.
It's that difference,
Mm.
is when do you stop waiting for
Yes.
it to
Knowing
go
that.
your way?
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time invested in things which I just are not working, and I just stay and I stay and I stay. But at some point you have to choose yourself.
Mm.
And like when I take my music, for example, I stayed, I tried it, but I had to recognize when it was not living up to my standards. And I could have spent a lot of time doing it,
Mm.
but I knew that, it was futile, and that's the difference.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So you do know the moment when you realize and accept that it's not working, and then you move on. So that, yeah.
Acceptance is such a large part of life, whether it's dealing with grief, whether it's dealing with acceptance doesn't mean you accept something and you sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. Acceptance is a sense of closure. Acceptance is a sense of power, where you feel like this is a chapter I have turned in my life. This day is over. Tomorrow is another day. It's literally as simple as that.
It requires
Tomorrow
a
is
lot of
another day.
strength. It requires a lot of strength and confidence to
And faith.
yes, faith,
I
yes.
think faith in
Yeah, in
the
yourself.
fact
And
that
that,
in yourself, I
yes.
think good things happen to good people. I'm a believer of that. If
Mhm.
you wake up every morning just trying to be a good person, and it's not very difficult to be a good person,
Yeah, no.
I think, I really believe that. And it's an everyday thing. You try and make every people who are around you, their lives easier. You try and live life with a sense of joy, and just try to do your work in the best way possible. And I think like that's what will give you a sense of confidence and a sense of faith that
Mhm.
this too shall pass. That's my mantra that I inherited from my parents.
Yes.
This too shall pass. There's nothing that's permanent in our lives.
Mhm.
It's like change is the most constant thing. So
What a
where there will be an up, there will be a down. But where there is a down, there will be an
there
up.
will be enough. Absolutely. Yeah, so true. So what to you is the purpose of life, Priyanka? You talk about it in the book, but tell us here again. What is the purpose of
It's
life?
the kind of question we ask Siri. Siri, what is the purpose of life?
You do.
But I mean, honestly, I do have a take on it, and I do think that the only thing that we know truly that will happen is birth and death,
Mhm.
right? You're born alone, you're gonna die alone. And I feel the purpose in life is what happens in between those points. I think the purpose of our lives is the journey that we're going to live
Mhm.
and what you do with that journey, whether it is happy, whether it is joyous. Life is a gift. I
Mhm.
believe that. I believe we are sent on this earth to enjoy the enormous, wonderful things that we have around us as human beings. And if 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 we can't do that, then I think we failed at our purpose.
Mhm.
And especially the ones who have the privilege to enjoy the things that have been given to us, and to be very importantly recognizing the fact that you have, the difference between people who have and the people who don't.
Mhm.
So I think that I do believe that the purpose in life is to be able to live it in the best possible way instead of being bogged down by the things that are also part of human nature, which is insecurity, ego, pride, anger, and all the negative things that keep us down, that limit us. It's so important to be limitless. And the only way we can do that is if we recognize that our journey is alone. Everybody's coming in and out of your life for a little while. Doesn't matter. It is what you do.
Yeah, true. Priyanka, when news of your book came out, um, everybody thought, okay, see, like you say, the 90-10 principle, but uh, in a in a in a in the life of a public person such as yourself, 90% of your life is in any case known to all of us. I mean, there's paparazzi, and there's so it's
Oh,
already
that's what everyone thinks is like 90% of my, you don't even know 15% of my life.
yeah. Okay. So okay,
People
so
don't.
so the book, when it's put together in the book, yeah, you think that okay, I didn't know this, and what is more important is to know it from your perspective in your voice, because when we are looking at the 90%, we see a completely different Priyanka. And after finishing your book, I said it to a few people that after reading the book, I have a completely different perception of Priyanka than I
Can
ever
I
did.
tell you why?
Yeah.
Because the perception of me you had was brought to you on a platter
Mhm.
by multitudes of people who
Absolutely.
thought they had a perception of me.
Exactly.
So, as a public person,
Mhm.
that's what happens. Like, no one really knows you.
Yeah.
It's just people who write about you make people think that they know you.
Yeah. And you can't go around correcting everybody. So your book is the best answer to them. But when news of your book came out, I mean, there were several ladies in Bollywood who were shaking in their stilettos, wondering what is going to come out in the book. There were many men, I'm sure, who were very scared and, running around and figuring out. And I mean, I know for sure that wondering, is she going to name people? Is she going to be naming people? But I thought it was very, very sensitive of you, the way you written about love and love as you experienced it, your friendships with people, the way you've written about it. You've said everything. You've said everything about yourself, your feelings. You've shown your vulnerability. You've shown your sensitivity. but you have not named names. Were you tempted to at any point?
No, because it's no one else's story but mine. It says Priyanka's memoir, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So my story.
Yeah.
And it's actually really funny. I read a few reviews which said that, oh, it wasn't, she didn't speak the truth about, you know, things like that. And I was like, oh, so basically you wanted a gossip rag in my book. You wanted
Exactly.
it to be a tell all. I'm not Stardust.
Yeah. Yes. And
And that's not, I think most people, that's the thing that, you know, I'm really grateful that my book is a #1 bestseller around the world without it being salacious, because I don't respond to that. I am not that person. I believe in having grace,
yeah.
and a lot of media doesn't.
Mm. Yes. I believe your book has made it to the New York Times bestseller list, and that's amazing. That's really good. And it's doing very well across I hear.
Yeah, I did that within a week of releasing, which was crazy.
Yeah. Do you know that's what people feel or what people believe or what they were looking forward to is all a thing apart, really. But I do feel it is a very, very honest book because you've revealed stuff about yourself and your feelings. You didn't hold that back. What was the toughest bit for you to write in the entire book?
I mean, just writing the book was really tough. I've never written a structured material like that. I've written op-eds, I have written columns, you know, prose, but writing a book is a completely different thing, you know. You have to have you know, introduction, you have to know where you're ending a book, what each chapter means, and the technique of writing the book to me was the hardest part, and to make it an interesting read. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't want this book just to cater to my fans or people who love me. I wanted the big book to be a good read. I wanted it to be interesting and funny, and like
It
it
is,
should
yeah.
take you through, you know, have a sense of personality like mine.
Yeah.
And I think that was hard, is to,
Mhm.
I really used to always go back to, if I was narrating the story, how would I narrate it, and
Mm.
then go back and write it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you talk about love and when you talk about your relationships, you talk about having made the mistake of perhaps trying to change according to other people's expectations, of giving too much of yourself and accommodating other people's expectations. And then you also talk about in a different portion of the book about your parents' relationship and how you wanted a relationship just like theirs, of a true partnership and romance and poetry and music is how you've described it. And it's beautiful, really, your parents' relationship. Have you found that? And what are the lessons that love has taught you?
Yeah, I have a ring on my finger, so I've definitely found it. I wouldn't have settled down if I didn't find it. Um, and what has, did you say love taught me?
Yes, the lessons that love taught you that you could share with others. And in a loving relationship, how should a person be? What one should never accept, and what one should look forward to.
I think that love is the most crucial thing in life, and that's the end game, you know. And that doesn't just mean love your partner, but it means also loving, you know, your parents and family. And um, I really believe love makes the world go round. And, you know, I would, that for me, love over anything. And the only way to love is completely and fully and give yourself completely. But you also have to your get someone else giving you completely, instead of it being skewed where only one person is doing it, you know, doing the heavy lifting. Second of all, I think the one thing that my marriage has definitely taught me, which I guess I didn't feel the need to have, which now I can't live without, is you know, having your partner give complete credence and credit to the job that I do, to my work, to, it's so amazing when I see how Nick accommodates his life for my achievements or my career and where I have to go and what my choices are, how it's so important to him that I win. And that was something I didn't realize that I needed, you know, a cheerleader. It feels like, you know, the one thing that's most important to me outside of my family is my work.
Yeah.
It has stood by me like a rock since I started as 17 years old. And I didn't realize that I needed my partner to understand the value of how much hard work that I've put into building this career on my back. And it's really wonderful to have a partner who appreciates that.
Yeah, I can tell you that's very rare. And if you have it, it's beautiful. It's a
It's
blessing,
wonderful.
really. It is a blessing. Has been married being married to Nick changed you in some way as a person? And also, has it impacted your work, even in a positive manner? Has it? Your style of
I
work?
think he has impacted me in a big way. I've become a lot calmer in life. Um, I would bite people's heads off if I get pissed off. Now I'm a little like,
Yes.
I'll be a little bit more calm. My
Yeah.
husband is a very calm person. He finds solutions. He's a diplomat, you know. Whereas I'm a mirchi like that. If I
Mm.
go off, I go off.
It's a good combination,
um,
though. Yeah.
yeah. So
Balance it out.
I've become a little calmer, I have to
Yeah.
say, and um, I think within my work, yes, I learn from Nick a lot. He's an amazingly talented, creative person, and we bounce a lot of our work off of each other.
Hmm.
His ideas with me, my ideas with him, and then we develop things together. So having a creative partnership with your partner is amazing. I mean, my parents were both doctors,
Yeah.
and they used to both check in with each other about their work. They would both like say, "Oh, I'm planning on doing this. What do you think about that?" And I used to find that fascinating. So I'm
Mm.
so grateful that I married
Yes.
somebody
Well,
who's in
that
my
is.
profession and understands, the creative ideas that I have maybe at dinner when we're talking. It's really
Mm.
wonderful.
Yeah. You talk about having finally found your peace and finally being comfortable in your own skin. So do you feel you found your groove? Are you ready to totally strike roots now? Because your mom, like you said in the book, has called you a bit of a rolling stone. Um, but yes, I do detect, what you spoke about just now, a sort of sthirta, as you would call it, a terav, a calm that has descended on you. Have you, Priyanka, finally found your groove?
I think I finally found my roots. It's
Yeah.
more like it. I always had a groove.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then there is also what comes through is the irrepressible naughty you. And I hope that is still alive. There is the incident of when you put a beetle into your poor father's ear and he had to go and get a surgery. And apart from that, there are, other incidents of the way you sometimes got annoyed at social media and people saying all kinds of things. And the manner in which you reacted to that, there's that irrepressible naughtiness in you. Does that stay alive?
I mean, it's part of my nature, but I'm I play. I like playing. I like having fun in everything that I do, in the way I speak, in the way I am. Obviously, putting the beetle in my dad's ear was fun for me, not for him.
Yeah, not for him.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's changed. Otherwise, Nick may be in for some trouble.
It's definitely changed after that moment. After I
Okay.
was sent to boarding school
Yeah.
because of doing it.
So, is there any Bollywood movie of yours that Nick has watched or loves watching again and again?
We both didn't know very much about each other's careers. So after we got married, we did sort of show and tell. He showed me his earlier music and work, and I showed him a few of my movies. But Nick loves Dil Dhadakne Do. He's watched it multiple
Yeah.
times.
Okay. All right.
Um,
That's nice.
yeah,
And
he really
and
does.
does he understand any Hindi at all?
Yes, I've told most people who know Nick don't speak in Hindi in front of him. He picks up. He's a very astute man. He
Okay.
picks up everything.
All right. So I must tell you that the my most favorite part of your book is the last chapter. Is the part in which you describe the inner landscapes of your future, like different rooms in a home. You talk about how it is a space that inspires creativity and risk taking. You talk about bold strokes and you talk about touches of edginess, which you describe your own character so well and you put it so poetically. It's poetic, and you do write poetry as well, I think.
I
So
do. I used to write poetry a lot, but that's also my favorite form of reading. Whenever I read a book, I love reading books that are poetic, visual. I'm a performance artist as an
yeah.
actor, so I needed the book to have a visual quality so that the reader feels transported into my memory. So I'm really glad you picked up on that.
Yes, it's beautiful, Priyanka. It's been wonderful talking to you, and it's wonderful to see how you have expressed your inner creativity through so many media, through films, through writing, through poetry, through music, and now also producing films. It's wonderful to see somebody giving such free vent to their creativity and having people around them who are supporting their creative self, and the whole combination is beautiful. You and a wonderful book which I will urge everyone to read. Congratulations, and thank you so much for this interaction.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.